Welcome to the Not Just a Pony Ride podcast, presented to you by Hetra University. If you've landed here, you're probably passionate about how horses help people. Whether you're an instructor, therapist, in the business, or have experienced equine assisted services yourself, we're glad you're here. Join us as we talk about the benefits, the science, to-dos, how-tos, and all of the reasons why what we do is so much more than just a pony ride. And now, from the Hetra campus in Gretna, Nebraska, here's your host, occupational therapist Katie King.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the show. We are excited to start planning for season 3 of the podcast for 2023. And I'm starting to put together a list of topics from the questions that you guys gave us on the Facebook page. So if you haven't already and you're like, gosh, I'd really like to know more about this or that, or give us some more ideas about this, go over to the Facebook page and find the giveaway tab. Giveaway post. I pinned it to the top of the Facebook page, so you should be able to see it. If you ask your question in that comments thread, I will enter you for a chance to win a t-shirt. So go over and ask your questions, and hopefully you'll hear it on an episode in 2023. So that brings me to today's episode. Today's episode was a question asked by Amanda on our Facebook page, and she wanted us to do an episode on EAGALA so that we could learn more about their organization and what they have to offer equine professionals. So today I have Amy and Brenda on the show, and they're going to tell us just that about EAGALA. Enjoy. Thank you for joining me today, Brenda and Amy.
Thank you, Katie. Hi.
I am looking forward to learning more about EAGALA today and you guys sharing the journey of the organization and what they can offer for us. So why don't we kick it off with some introductions so we all know who we're talking to. Amy, do you want to start?
Sure. Hi, I'm Amy Blossom. I'm the EAGALA CEO. I'm located in Illinois, Elgin, Illinois. And I've been with EAGALA for over 20 years. I was a member, then I was a board member for 6 years, and then I became a trainer and have continued being a trainer through today as an equine specialist and also as a mental health professional, but my primary role is equine specialist. And then in the last 2 years ago, I became the EAGALA CEO, so able to help EAGALA on different levels through the years.
Very good. How did you get your start in, I guess, equine assisted therapies and in this world? How did you find it?
Yeah, so I grew up with horses, had horses my whole life, different horses from the time I was about 6 years old. Went to college, didn't really know what I wanted to do with my life, wanted something to do with horses, but there really wasn't a career like this at the time. And so I went into the business world. I did get a psychology degree and went into the business world and kept my feet wet with the horses and riding instruction and helping to train and, helping as an assistant barn manager on the side. And so really wanting to always go back to that. And then at some point, we had moved to a horse property. I was teaching riding lessons there with my own horses, and somebody gave me a flyer for this Equine Assisted Growth and Learning Association. This was back in 1999. So it was quite a little bit ago. So I went to the EAGALA training, and it was just everything that I loved about horses and how they help people, everything that I love about helping people and collaborating with other people and horses to provide that was exactly what, that was my aha moment. I knew that that's what I wanted to do. So here I am.
Beautiful. I love when the two worlds collide, right? That's how a lot of us end up here is we want to help people and we love our horses and it shows up.
Exactly.
And we also have Brenda on today. Brenda, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi, I'm Brenda Hunter, and my role with EAGALA is as a mental health professional. I've been with EAGALA about 20 years now, and similar to Amy, I've had many different roles and progression through EAGALA. I was one of the founding members of the EAGALA's ethics committee, chaired that committee for many years. Have been an EAGALA mentor and been an ongoing EAGALA trainer, and now in this role as member services director. So had lots of different roles and ways of supporting our members in this organization and trying to offer EAGALA services as a mental health form of treatment to consumers.
Very nice. Well, thank you both for being on today. Let's talk first, just briefly. So some of our listeners might not know what EAGALA does or what they can offer. So someone want to touch base on just the organization in general?
Yeah, I'll start that off, and then Brenda, you can add to it. EAGALA is an international nonprofit organization established in 1999. The original idea came from two people a social worker and another worker at a residential treatment center who was bringing the clients down to the horses, and the two of them together realized that was creating change in the youth that were there. It was for youth at risk. And that was kind of the beginnings of EAGALA. So like I said, EAGALA had been formed in 1999. And we've gone from, when I went to my first training, we had 35 members in the world in 1999. And now we have almost 2,500 members in the world. We have over 800 programs. Actually, I looked at the statistics on that the other day. It's closer to 900 now, programs throughout the world. EAGALA requires an equine specialist, so a person who has a minimum of really the equivalent of 3 years full-time experience with horses, directly working with them, understanding horse behavior. We can probably talk about that more in depth later too. You might have more questions about that, but an equine specialist who's qualified, a mental health professional who's qualified in their state or country, always working together in the work that we do as a team. So it's a team approach with at least one horse. Often it's multiple horses for different reasons, and we can talk about that more as well. So these are our 4 standards. It's a team approach. It's 100% on the ground. So in an EAGALA program, there's not riding. It's all on the ground, interacting with horses in different ways. The team comes up with different ideas based on what the client brings with them. It's really solution-oriented. That's another standards. It's solution-oriented, meaning that we feel like our clients are the best experts to find their own solutions if we can give them the opportunity to explore with the horses and find those answers. So to me, as a horse professional as well, that 100% on the ground, it doesn't mean that we don't think that there are benefits for certain reasons for riding. I mean, I personally ride, and, my family members have competed, and, we have show horses too. And, I have an appreciation for horses on all levels, but we believe that on the ground, the horses can be their most honest selves when they're interacting with people. They can react, they can respond, they have the freedom to take care of themselves. They can move farther away, they can move closer, they can really show their true personality. And so for me, that's the big reason why I believe that 100% on the ground in EAGALA model is important and so effective. And then the other standard, the 4th standard, is the ethics-based. So everything that we do, we want to do through an ethics lens. What is in the best interest of our clients? What is in the best interest of our horses? How do we have continuous education as professionals to be the best we can be for our clients who come to us and trust us? So that's kind of some general overview of EAGALA. Brenda, what would you add to that?
Well, I wanted to add, as you were talking about the solution-oriented approach, that's really what drew me to EAGALA initially as a mental health professional, because I didn't have a course experience when I first was introduced to EAGALA. And I had an opportunity where I was in a residential treatment program with youth, and one of my clients was selected to receive a donation of this Equine Assisted Psychotherapy. And I was like, wow, okay. And I had to go along as the client's therapist. And just that, some of the things that Amy's talking about, the feedback, the honest feedback from the horses, and just how much more effective that feedback from the horses, the working with the horses, helped the clients find those solutions far quicker than I could in doing more traditional office-based therapy. Mm-hmm. And just that was the power of this work that I saw very quickly, of the effectiveness and how much quicker we could help the clients find some solutions for themselves to give them that more of that insight, understanding, and awareness of whatever challenges it is that they're working with.
Yeah, and kind of that personal autonomy of finding their own way and their own solutions with the, horses as a partner, I think can be really powerful for a lot of clients. Mm-hmm. So let's talk a little bit about the professionals that are involved. So you said a mental health professional and an equine specialist. So I have a few questions. So the mental health professional, does it need to be a licensed, mental health, social work, something like that? Or do you have other types of therapists involved that have a mental health lens?
So from the mental health professional lens, so the model is a minimum of a mental health professional and an equine specialist. Yeah. We can talk about some other professionals after this, but the minimum is always there is a mental health professional and an equine specialist. And yes, by a mental health professional, it's a professional that is licensed, or in other countries, it's called certified, or whatever it's called by that country, by that state, that a person has demonstrated minimum requirements to that state's regulating body based on education experience that their state, their country deems them, or their regulatory body says, yes, you're qualified to provide mental health counseling. So that's EAGALA itself does not certify somebody to be a mental health professional. People become certified through EAGALA, and they come to us demonstrating that they meet their state's criteria qualifications to be recognized as a mental health professional. So, okay. So I'll answer the mental health lens, and then Amy can answer the ES part of that, and then we can add on to other specialized professionals.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, and then I just wanted to add on the mental health side, Katie, there are a lot of people who are interested, younger people and people who want a new career, who are interested in becoming a mental health professional so they can do this work. Maybe they have horse experience, maybe they don't have experience with horses. That's one thing that I do love about this model, is that the mental health professional doesn't have to have any horse experience at all. That is the role of the equine specialist. We bring these two lenses together, and that's very important. So, I'm going to bounce it back to you, Brenda, to, what would you say to those people who are interested in a career in the mental health side of this? Because I think that's where we really want to go as an organization, to help foster that, because I didn't have that when I was younger, and boy, would it have been great. It took me a lot longer to get there. And I'm thankful for that journey. And we still want to be able to reach back and help foster interested people in this program.
I think one of the things in today's world compared to like when Amy and I got started some 20 years ago is, as Amy mentioned, we do have close to 900 EAGALA programs. So as somebody who was interested in this as a career, maybe they're going to graduate school, they could look at connecting with some of these EAGALA programs and possibly doing some kind of internship in that mental health role under licensed mental health professional supervision. So I see a lot more opportunities today compared to 20 years ago, just with having more programs, and knowing that it's out there. If you're wanting to be in the role of a mental health professional, but you would like to do something using horses in your mental health professional role, is advocating with your universities and talking to your instructors and faculty, saying, hey, there's this other approach of therapy, and I'd like to explore this further, and finding that support to sort of, you could almost make your own path in graduate school, to have a little bit of that and incorporate that, so that when you did finish school, you'd be ready to start providing EAGALA model services.
So let's talk about the equine specialist portion of things. Amy, do you want to field that?
Yeah. So like I said, it really comes down to a minimum of 3 full-time years of work with horses directly. It doesn't mean that you have to have worked 3 full-time years, but the equivalent of that. And again, that's a minimum. So I think it's 6,000 hours is the minimum requirement. And within the last 2 years, you have to have a minimum of 40 hours of experience. When people come to me and ask me as an equine specialist trainer or as an equine specialist in general, like, what do I do if I'm interested in this field? Similar to the conversation we had about the mental health side. I recommend people go work with barns that have multiple horses. It's great if you have your own horse and you've got lots of years of experience with that horse, but the more horse interactions we can experience, making decisions like, what horses do I put in this paddock together and why? Which horses would I not put into that paddock and why? What makes it different when they're being fed in that paddock together and which combinations I would put together? Like, those things are really important because it also then applies to which horses might I put together with these clients and why or why not. All horses have something special they can bring to this session. And we as equine specialists need to really be able to know the horses, to know how to know the horses, and to know the horses in relation to their other relationships with horses. So this horse with this horse, this horse with this horse, when this one is added, these two, when that one's not there, like the nuances of all of that is such an important skill set for the equine specialist to bring in. So yes, there are universities and programs that have equine studies programs. That's great if they get those kinds of experiences, hands-on with horses, training experiences. I really encourage equine specialists to broaden their experience, not just learn from one trainer, learn from as many different philosophies around horse training as possible. Another example is even disciplines in riding. I think, even though this isn't 100% on the ground model, how we as horse professionals interact with horses in the training realm, on the ground, riding them, the ways we communicate with them, and the ways we know they communicate back. All of those things really do apply to this role in this work.
So how do you recommend that someone, do you require like proof of those hours, or do you know, how do you go about that if say I grew up with horses and I'm not sure if I meet the requirements or, whatever, that kind of thing?
Yeah. And it is hard because at this point, a lot of it is still on the honor system. And usually people mean well and they want to get involved in this work. And so they want to have the skill sets that they need, and the confidence that they need to be able to step in the arena, as a part of a team to serve clients. So that's the good news, is most people want to know how to do that. So I think that, we have our trainings, for example. That's one place. We have people, before they come to the trainings, they fill out a professional portfolio that talks about their role, the role that they are planning to go into. There's a thought process to that with specific questions around that, around the experience. In some countries, it's easy because they're required. Well, I shouldn't say it's easy, but it's easy to at least demonstrate that foundational level of expertise. For example, in England, there's the British Horse Society. They have to have completed that training, which is extensive, to be able to even teach a riding lesson. And so in some countries, it's easier to check that off. Oh yeah, you've done that. So you've at least met the minimum requirements. It doesn't guarantee that they're going to be great at this work. There are a lot of things that bring people to being really qualified for this work. But that's a starting point. In the United States, we don't have as much of that. I know that there are several organizations working toward that, and I'm really a fan of that idea. At some point as EAGALA, we would love to have more of a qualifying testing or something to help demonstrate the skill sets. Right now, that professional portfolio and that guided thought process is the most helpful way. And then when they come to the trainings, we're able to help them with new skills and learning new skills, practicing new skills with others and with horses, with a variety of horses. That's why virtual learning really isn't very effective in the beginning with this work, right? We have to teach with horses. It's very, I don't see how you could not. So those kinds of experiences. And then people can go into, we have networking groups so people can practice their skills within their role. We have different opportunities with, I don't want to say internships, but there are different kinds of experiences that different workshops, different trainings, different things that are being held by other EAGALA members even, that can help build those skill sets.
Good. So lots of opportunity to continue to build them if you don't already have all of those pieces in place. So I guess as we can kind of move through this in almost like a sequential way. Okay. So we're interested, we're either a mental health professional or we're someone who qualifies for the equine specialist. Now I'm interested in certifying or becoming a member or that type of thing. So can you walk me through kind of maybe Brenda, what it means to be a member and then maybe how that certification process works?
Mm-hmm. And I also want to just add, we didn't get to, people can become EAGALA certified as other specialized professionals.
Right. Yes.
So when I said it's a minimum of a mental health professional, equine specialist, often adding another specialized professional, depending on the population you're working with, can further enhance the therapy that you're doing with that client. Some examples, we've done some work with eating disorders and have had a nurse be a third team member in providing the EAGALA model services, or a nutritionist. So in that example, they add that extra lens of their specialty area. And when you're working with a client population in which they have that area specialty, it furthers the depth and the learning of the client's experience in that session. So I just wanted to make that clear that there could be other professionals that are interested in becoming certified. We welcome them to become certified. And if they would, the difference is that they would be a third person on an EAGALA team, because there would still need to be an equine specialist and a mental health professional. And to add real quick on the reason for like that mental health professional, even if we do equine assisted learning, which isn't necessarily mental health therapy focused or counseling focused, but the work through the horses can quickly get to people's emotions and their mental well-being without them even being prepared or realizing. And so always having that mental health professional there is having a qualified person to help somebody if it's getting more an emotional, mental well-being space that they need to be taken care of.
Okay, so let's talk about a little bit about what it means to be an EAGALA member, and then we can talk about kind of the certification process.
Yeah, so a person, when they get registered to attend a training, they automatically become a member. Also, people can become a subscriber. So they have access to various information we offer, various meetings we offer. So people, as a subscriber, they can start to learn more. Like maybe there's somebody who's like, I'm sort of interested in this, but I'm not sure I'm ready to commit to like going to get certified. So I'd sort of like to just sort of hang out for a while and hear what they're doing. We have bi-monthly member meetings, and when that are offered and people attend those, we give all the newest and updated education information around EAGALA model in those meetings, and they can take part in those, just various news and resources that we have available. So people can choose that route as a subscriber. If they know they want to attend a training, then even if that training's next November, they're active as a member and they have access to all these same resources, so they can jump right in and get connected to their local networking groups to participate in these bi-monthly meetings and things like that. So then did you have a question on that?
Nope.
Okay. So then they decide they want to get certified. So they register and they attend. It's a 4.5-day in-person training, or we call it the fundamentals training. So it's teaching the skill set. It breaks all the skill sets down one by one and teaches the skill sets that are utilized in facilitating EAGALA model services. And the trainings are done experientially with horses. So we have some didactic teaching on a skill set, and then participants go and then practice with the horses and start practicing how to do this. So it's very experiential based, breaking those skill sets down, progressively building. Okay, here's one of the core earlier basic ones you need to know. Let's practice that. And then adding on and adding on and adding on. So by the end of the 4.5 days, they've learned and practiced all of the skill sets, and then they become EAGALA certified. Their certification is good. Go ahead.
Are those 4.5 day trainings, do they happen all, wherever the trainers go to? Do they have different host sites and that type of thing, or is it all done in one location?
Yeah, so we have EAGALA trainings around the world, and excited to, now that things have opened up, we're able to get more out there. This coming year, we have 24 fundamentals trainings scheduled in the United States this year. We move around to different states. We have hosts who offer their facilities. We do have some minimum requirements for that. One being that at least one of the host team must be EAGALA certified, because what we do is very different. And so to make sure that the horses are suitable for this training that's 4.5 days, for the facility to have what it needs, for us to have up to 35 people attending, to be able to handle the catering and all these different things that are part of it. And we do have, I guess, what I would call a host training kind of process as well. But we hope that hosts have some experience in providing, events at their facilities. It's a nice way to showcase their facilities as well. And we have a certain budget related to that. We send our trainers, we send one equine specialist trainer and one mental health professional trainer. We have trainers around the world, so we send a team to each training. And the location can vary depending on, we'd send our trainers to different locations by design. We don't want to always have the same trainers at the same location, because we want even those local people that are driving to be able to experience different, all the trainers that we have are excellent. They have different private practices that they work in, and they have different styles. And so we want people to experience that. We don't want you to learn to do the EAGALA model just like us. We want you to take your own style and bring it in to use the skill sets and build that. And so in experiencing different trainers at different trainings, that can really help people to understand that and reduce some of the pressure as well.
Right. So during those 4.5 day trainings, those are both the equine specialists and the mental health professionals that are there to learn about the model and kind of what their roles are, kind of separately as professionals, right?
Exactly. Separately and together, the equine specialist trainer's role is to help the equine specialist better understand their role, to think about considerations with the horses, with spaces, and interactions with clients, in working with a mental health professional, and also to help the mental health professionals understand a little bit more about working with equine specialists. And the mental health professional does all that on their side. And so we really do demonstrate in our team as we facilitate. We demonstrate our roles as we do that. We're role models as trainers throughout the training. We stay within our roles, even if we're qualified as both. If I'm at a training as an equine specialist trainer, I do not have my mental health hat on, and vice versa.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and I would add, as at a training as a mental health professional, it's one of the skill sets that can be challenging to us as mental health professionals is learning to ask questions through the horses, because we very quickly can be like, oh yeah, tell me more about that. And rather it's, and what happened with the horse when this was going on. So it's learning sort of how to ask questions differently, because we're utilizing the horses. This is equine assisted psychotherapy. The horse is the one that's really directing. So a lot of, from the mental health lens, my learning experience over the years is, it's like that's an unlearning thing, so to speak, for me as a therapist, of wait, okay, don't ask it this way. Let's try to figure out a way to keep the horses at the center, and asking the questions to the horses. And that's really what then gets them having that solution, finding that solution, because we keep going through the horses.
Oh, I love that. Yeah. And I think that's something that, obviously that you learn in the training, and that's intuitive to people that, I'm sure practice the EAGALA model now, but thinking about that from my point of view, I haven't been trained in the EAGALA model, and using the horse as your conduit of that change, I'm sure is hard for mental health therapists who are used to just doing traditional talk therapy where you're like, okay, now tell me about that, right? Instead, we're using the horse as our mirror. I love that. Have you heard about Hetra's mentoring program? 30 years ago, Hetra started with one participant and a handful of volunteers. Today, we're a large, thriving organization that wants to share our experience with you. We know that the work you're doing is extremely beneficial, but we also know how incredibly difficult it can be. Let us help you understand all aspects of your program, from volunteer coordination, horse management, finances, fundraising, and everything in between, so that you can sustain a successful, thriving organization. Get started now with a free 15-minute consultation. All you have to do is a quick survey, and we'll match you with the best Hetra staff member for your needs. Go to hetrauniversity.org now and click on mentoring.
And really to throw out there, it's a shift for the equine specialist too, because many of us come from the world of horsemanship and so and taught specific things. And when we teach a certain way. And so it's really, we have to expand our ability to be present for the session, to really allow the horses to do their job, to not need it to be about us teaching, because really it's experiential. So to allow our clients to find their own way, we have to allow them to find their own way. And that can be really hard in the beginning, especially when we're thinking about, we have to learn some different things about how we look at safety and our beliefs around horsemanship and the importance of it. And is there just one way to approach a horse? And I think when we really start to think about that, is there just one way to get a horse to move? We're taught, many of us are taught things like you must stand on the left side and walk at the shoulder when you're leading a horse. Do we have to? Will the earth still spin if we do something different? And if our clients come up with their own way, is that not okay? And that goes back to the equine specialist really needing to know their horses, and then we have to learn to trust our horses within that. And, and select horses that can manage in this space and navigate in a way that's reasonably safe, so our clients can have these experiences with the horses and the team and have growth from it.
I love that. I love that so much. I think oftentimes we get very rigid in the ways that we do things. And I think there is something to be said about that for the, the sanity, I guess, of our horses. I think about programs that have, a large horse herd with large number of volunteers handling them every day. So it's important that kind of everybody does it a similar way so that they're not like, what do you want from me? Nobody does it this way, right? But when we're talking about being in a session with a client and letting them explore their own ways of doing things, I think that there's something to be said for that, method as well. And being able to have horses that are flexible in both realms, I guess, would be an important part of it.
Yeah. And I think it really helps. In my experience through the years, I've had, probably 50 different horses, at least by now at this point, in my life, probably more than that, probably 100, but they've become so resilient. They've become so flexible. They become curious instead of being, worried about change and things that are different. And so I think we have to really respect that in certain programs, yes, certain types of things that we're doing with horses, with clients, there do need to be some very, rigid ways things are done, because there's the client that maybe on the horse, you're talking about occupational therapy in that kind of context, that's understandable. And in the barn context, I agree. If we've got all these different horses and you have all these different people coming in, the program has to have the freedom to do what it needs to do for the program's best interest and for the horse's best interest. And then we just need to remember, that the horses are also individuals with their own individual needs and personalities. And so I love that in this type of program, the horses get that space. Like, this is the program where they get to do that. And, I've seen that with so many of our horses where they're like, oh, this is that thing. And I love it because of that. So they can be versatile. They can go and be in a show and wear the horsemanship halter and know that that's that job. I don't move my feet unless I'm told to. And then come to the EAGALA session and be like, ooh, this is this. I get to do whatever I think I need to do in relation to the client. So it's really neat when you can see the horses understand that there is a difference.
Absolutely. Okay, so look at us go. We're all all on track. I love it though. That's the way this goes. So in kind of coming back to this certification process, and we get through these, 4 days, and then is there some sort of formal test, or is there something that you guys do that then makes people certified?
There are we have a post assessment that's an online exam, so to speak, questionnaire that is ask multiple choice questions that demonstrates that they've learned some of the key learning objectives from the training, and then a training evaluation that we ask them to complete. And so after they complete the 4.5 days and they do the evaluation and the post assessment, then they're certified, and they're certified for 2 years from the date that they finished the training. And then in order to maintain or continue certification, certified members have to obtain over the course of that 2 years, 20 hours of EAGALA model specific continued education. And then they pay a biennial renewal fee. And then their certification is maintained and extended for another 2 years. So it's a 2-year renewal process. The continuing education can be in many forms. It can be returning to a fundamentals training. Amy mentioned we have a lot of other specialty trainings that we can offer. And every other year, there's some online options to do online learning. So we try to provide many different opportunities, knowing we have a challenging world right now in terms of people and travel and how professionals, need to try to maintain their education in their specialties.
There's, historically, we do have a conference every other year. So right now we're working on is that at the end of 2023, is it in the beginning of 2024? So hopefully we'll have the answer to that question pretty soon. But every other year is our conference, which is great because then we have about 500 people typically attending for multiple days, learning all different things about how to use a EAGALA model and work with horses and teams to do this work with different specialties. And then there's also a live, horse demonstrations, a whole day of that where you can, you learn by watching or experiencing, this work as well.
I think that's something that should be said about the work that we do, especially because every person is different and every horse is different, right? So it's like we could walk into any given session and it could be, we could go through plan A, B, C, D, E and still not be where we need to be sometimes. So I think that experiential part is really important, being able to watch sessions and learn from the responses, because that horse might not respond the same every time, or that person wouldn't either. So that experiential piece, I think, is really important. Do you guys bring like mock clients or clients in when you do some of your trainings and your certification so that you can kind of see that real life exchange?
Yeah, great question. So at the training, what we do is we actually take turns in our practice teams, in our small groups. We are put together as facilitation teams, so an equine specialist with a mental health professional. And when you're not practicing as one of those, you are an observer or you are a client. And we ask our participants to do that because they can best experience what it's like when the facilitation team uses the different EAGALA skills in their session. They can experience that, what's helpful, what's less helpful. What is it like to be in the client's shoes? That's really important to do that. So we don't bring in outside people. We feel like there's some ethical things around that as well. And the deep experiences that our attendees get at the trainings by being client and being able to give legitimate feedback to the facilitators. So versus role playing. So I think that's a really valuable experience to be a client with certain boundaries. Of course, we're not asking people to come in and bring their, deepest issue. We give them the freedom to select something. It might be a professional growth goal. It might be my kids are going off to college. It might be, anything that they're comfortable in practicing with. And then we build on that through the training. And so through the course of those 4.5 days, there's actually a lot of personal and professional growth built in throughout the whole thing. So it's an added bonus.
Yeah, I love that.
Another thing that we offer is many of the states and many of the countries have established networking groups, and they're run by a networking group coordinator. And then they meet at a minimum quarterly, some meet monthly. During the pandemic, some of them were via Zoom, but the ideal is it's an opportunity for local professionals in that state to have an opportunity to gather who are EAGALA certified, and that's another opportunity where they can practice, they can do some of this, be in the role of a client, continue to practice the skill sets. Maybe they come together and they provide a demonstration as a group to a potential funder or something like that. So
Yeah.
that's another opportunity. The more we can get more people out there working together, practicing together, the stronger the model becomes.
Yeah. And I think if we're mindful of confidentiality, of course, kind of sharing some of our challenges and our wins too helps other professionals see things through a different lens and can help that as well. When networking, I feel like that's a good thing to do too.
Mm-hmm.
So what makes,
Definitely.
there's quite a few other kind of equine assisted psychotherapy and mental health and learning. And there's quite a few other organizations that have been popping up kind of over the last few years, offering different types of certifications and that sort of thing. What makes EAGALA different, or why would someone choose to go through EAGALA as opposed to maybe some of the other options that are available?
Yeah. So, I mean, we can't speak for the other organizations because we don't represent them, and, it wouldn't be fair. We don't fully understand the other organizations. We have educated ourselves with what else is out there. What stands out to me with EAGALA, why I chose EAGALA, and why that continues to be the organization for me that I support and feel the most strongly about, is the standards that we set. We set clear standards for the professionals that are required to be a part of our sessions. The team approach, I think that's very important and valuable for so many reasons, that's part of our standards, and we hold to those standards. And that ethics committee that we have, they work to educate our members about ethics around our standards, around working with horses, around working with clients, around business practices, even the fact that we have an ethics committee and that we as an organization support our members through their growth and learning. And we also hold all of ourselves accountable. That continuous improvement is always something that we value. It's not just getting a certificate and then, check that off, and 20 years later, you don't have to have learned anything else. I think that's also important. Continuous improvement, continuing education, and the focus on the horse. The focus on the role of the horse, I think, is unique for EAGALA, because we do believe that the horse is the center of the work that we do. We believe that the important roles, the two lenses of the equine specialist and the mental health professional, help bring that out, and give the horse the opportunity. I like to say one of the most important parts of our job is to get out of the way and let the horses do their work. And there are a lot of specific skill sets that it takes to do that. So I think those are some things that make EAGALA stand out for me. The member support, the global member meetings that we have, we're all, as an organization, EAGALA is supporting all of our members. We want everyone to succeed. Our mission, our vision is so that everyone around the world would have access to EAGALA model services. And so to do that, we need to have outreach. We need to promote this work. We need to promote standards of excellence and member support. So that's my short answer to that question. The question.
I would add one more thing onto that,
Yeah.
from the mental health professional lens, and asking that question, because it was all those similar things for me, what drew me to EAGALA as Amy, and just how effective with it 100% on the ground as a mental health modality of therapy. Mm-hmm. Versus others. Again, no judgment about the others, but just knowing that this being 100% on the ground with the horses as a mental health professional, providing mental health counseling, and knowing how effective that is.
Mm-hmm. Do you guys find that there are some like say, for example, a larger center that is, has multiple different types of programs. So they might have a writing program, they might have, maybe veteran services or, other things going on, that you can be kind of, a center could be dual credentialed and have an EAGALA model, program running, and then also, other programming too. I mean, can those things cohabitate well?
Oh, definitely. We have a lot of programs that do have multiple programs within their umbrella. Plenty don't for other reasons. I think one thing we've got to be mindful of is that, the training and the qualifications of which team members are working with different types of clients. An example would be what you mentioned, occupational therapy. So you're not an EAGALA certified occupational therapist. That wouldn't apply to what you're doing with horses, with clients in that other realm. And so it's important for us to have clarity of the roles and the different programs that we're providing. Within our work, we don't have space for volunteers to be watching. Mm-hmm. Volunteers need to be qualified and have a clear, distinct, qualified role if they're participating in the session as a team member. And, just some of the ethics of how do we have clients in multiple programs at the same time? What is the progress or process of that? How do they get assigned to different programs? Those are things that are important to think about, so that you're not having accidentally let's say, the therapeutic riding program, incidentally soliciting the EAGALA program clients to their, I think that there's just a lot of extra work that it takes to think through all of that on the ethics side. And certainly there's no EAGALA rule that you cannot do those things as long as you're clear about them. And we would hope that you do them well. And we have a lot of programs we're really proud of that do that.
Mm-hmm. And I would add, big picture, like you mentioned the ethics, for businesses who have multiple programs that we're talking about, then from the client or the consumer standpoint, just you have to be very, very clear in the informed consent process, whatever it is they're receiving, hippotherapy, EAGALA model, that they're understanding, we offer multiple programs and we are offering you this type of program from our business, and this is what it looks like, so that they truly have made that informed consent of what service they're electing to have through you.
And what do you guys suggest as far as an evaluation? So if, say, you have a new client that comes to you and they say, I'm interested in some mental health services. Do you folks do more of a, like a talk kind of session to get to know each other, or do you jump right in with the horses and kind of have your first session?
Let me throw out first, Brenda, before you answer that.
Okay.
That EAGALA as an organization doesn't have a set standard for what that needs to look like. We believe that the mental health professionals who are qualified to make that judgment call and the programs who enlist them are capable of making their own decisions with the best interest of the clients in place. So just from an organizational perspective, there's not one answer to that. So Brenda, you answer from your professional role.
And again, it's with me as a mental health professional in that role, doing an EAGALA session, I still have some, just as if I were doing office-based therapy, I still have those responsibilities and requirements, like doing an informed consent and liability of release form, and informing them of my limits to confidentiality. So that has to happen so those basics of providing mental health therapy still have to be there in EAGALA sessions. And then after that is where it's sort of tailored based on style of a mental health professional, how formal of an intake or an assessment do you want to do? Do you have some pen and paper tests that you typically give? Do you do something where you get them out with the horses and do some specific things that help you in making assessment? So that's where there's, other than those 4 standards of what EAGALA says is our standards to adhere to, there's so much flexibility and creativity in how we do this mental health counseling through the horses. And as mental health professionals, we still have to uphold and abide by whatever, regulations are out there that we have to follow to provide mental health counseling.
Right.
Just to add real quickly to that, because I know that, you talked about multiple programs and the question coming a little bit from that side of it, I think. Our programs that do have multiple programs, they work to have who is that frontline phone call or email, who receives that. I encourage people to have policies and procedures around that. Who gets that phone call, who gets that email, how do you decide where they go? In our private practice, we want to make sure that we're understanding what it is that they're looking for, because like you use the word veterans or, military, we might have somebody who's contacting us because they are having a very deep, personal issue that they need to work through, or they might be contacting us because they want something to do on their weekends to help something in the community. And so unless we ask certain questions to help filter through that, we might make assumptions one way or another. And we just really need to, for the best interest of every person who contacts us, filter through that and make sure that we're plugging them into the right program with their permission.
Absolutely. I love that. I think that people seek out horses for a number of reasons. It could be anything. And I think chiseling down and figuring that out is very important when we consider multiple programs and multiple folks that are seeking us for different reasons. So, well, as we're kind of wrapping up here, I think I've kept you gals long enough. I've had such a good conversation with you, and I've learned a ton about EAGALA and what they can offer us. Is there anything that you would add about seeking EAGALA or, choosing you guys as a certification?
Yeah, I would add that our website is www.eagala.org, www.egala.org. There is an events calendar on our website. So if people are interested in looking at the events that are on there, the different options for trainings, the registration process is pretty easy. We do have an email, equine@egala.org. So if in doubt, go to the horse. And, we're always happy to help people with questions. If there's, anything with registration that they need help with, the logistics for each training are listed under that events tab. So they can look at the location, they can pull up the address, they can, see how far it would be to drive to it or what airport they would fly to. So, we really, as a trainer, I love the experience of being at every different training because the groups are really unique and in their growth process. So we're really proud of what we do as an organization. We're always welcoming new members. And, that includes members who were long ago in the past and coming back, which we're seeing more and more recently, which is exciting. So, and we hope to see you at a training, Katie.
Yeah. So I went on your website and it's beautiful. It's very helpful. So I will put it in the show notes below and link it for everybody. So you can just scroll down and click on it and seek there for any information. It was really helpful for me just kind of going through and learning more about you guys too. So Brenda, would you add anything about if people are trying to seek EAGALA or answer any questions?
Yeah, I wanted to add a couple. Also, at the top right, as Amy was mentioning, there's an events page. There's certification. So it goes through all the details of what are the minimum requirements, a lot of the questions you asked us today in this podcast, there's answers to those questions through that page by looking for certification. Also, on that certification page, there's what we call a pre-training webinar. I think it's only about 7 or 8 minutes long, but it's actually a video talking through what is EAGALA and what is EAGALA model. So for people wanting to just learn a little more, that's another opportunity to get better understanding. And yeah, as Amy said, always just email equine@egala.org. We love to field questions and give answers and help people so that, big picture, we want for EAGALA to be able to be offered to everybody around the world.
Very good. Okay, well, before I let you go, I always end my podcast with the same question. So, Amy, I'll let you start. why do you keep doing what you're doing with EAGALA? What motivates you to keep going every day?
Well, my belief from an early age that horses have so much to offer us, that they've taught me so much about confidence and boundaries and, all different kinds of things that I learned from the horses in my life, that now with the ability to provide that opportunity for people, I love that we're able to provide, an emotionally safe place for people to come and explore. We've had clients who will tell us that it was the horses that made them not be able to take those pills, or to be able to, move away from something that was bad for them. That they've given the horses and this team credit for life changes, and then they're able to give themselves credit for that too. So for me, being able to have seen that, from a personal perspective, and then seeing that through clients who maybe wouldn't be alive today if they hadn't had this experience. So I really want as many people to have access to this as possible, give the horses the opportunity to help these people. So for me, that's really the foundation of my why.
Beautiful. What about you, Brenda? What's your why? Why do you keep doing what you're doing with EAGALA?
It's very similar to Amy. And as I mentioned, when we started this, just as a mental health professional who didn't know about horses when I started, and then seeing how the power of the work that the horses can offer to mental health clients, and empowering them and helping them find solutions. And my why is our world has always been, but more recently, probably even more challenging to mental health. I wish everybody could have access to this, because it's just, in my opinion, more effective than office-based therapy. Not saying office-based therapy is not effective, just there's something different about it, and it gets to the issue and the healing quicker. And so that's my why of why I keep doing this, because I want to see more and more people have access to this.
Absolutely. I know here at Hetra, we've seen a huge increase in the need for mental health services, and I'm sure there's that similar experience all across the country and the world right now with the climate that we're in. So if you're listening right now and you have a friend that's in the mental health field, or, has been around horses a long time and might be interested in this kind of work, I would encourage you to send this podcast to them, or send them over to egala.org, or give them a resource, because I think you're right, Brenda. I think there's something special about using the horse as our conduit and as our partner, and it can be really effective. So if we work together, we can help a lot of people.
Mm-hmm. Thanks for having us, Katie.
Absolutely. Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule. And who knows, maybe we'll have you on again. I have lots of questions still that we didn't get to. So maybe we'll have you on again sometime.
I'd be happy to do that. Thanks, Katie.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to another episode. Until the next one launches, stay connected to our community by joining the Not Just a Pony Ride Facebook group. There, we share exclusive educational content, answer your questions, and review new and exciting developments for the EAS community. Don't forget, if you have suggestions for future episode topics or a lead on a great guest that you think our audience would enjoy, click on the link in the show notes or visit us at hetrauniversity.org. This podcast is presented by Hetra University, an educational arm of the Heartland Equine Therapeutic Riding Academy. Hetra University's mission is to provide high-quality educational offerings to our participants and the EAS community. If you'd like to help us work toward our mission, you can make a donation by visiting us online at hetra.org. Again, I can't thank you all enough for helping Hetra change lives one stride at a time.